So there is one segment of the audience which is really upset, unhappy, and actually has reached a state of paralysis. Or they could just say, you know what, we are confiscating your cryptocurrency. Now that is a confiscation of 10,000 crore rupees from 75 lakh people. A lot of people you are hearing from themselves don't know what they are talking about, primarily because this is not a logical discussion. This is a discussion on predicting what the government will do. So panic has never helped.
Given what we have recently seen Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and MOS Anurag Thakur say, the sense that we get is that the impending prohibition on cryptocurrency in India is still very much on the table. So as somebody who is in the thick of the ecosystem, how do you see the mood among the investors and also among crypto ecosystem today, as of today?
So when we first heard about this, like within the first few days of the agenda for this session of the Lok Sabha coming up, we did see a fairly high degree of panic, and there were increase in volumes. Now, increase in volumes does not automatically indicate that do people love the news or hate the news, but because it was accompanied by a fall of prices, I think that you could say there was a certain amount of panic in the market. However, what has happened over time is that people said, here's the thing, at any given point in Bitcoin's history, there have been more people entering Bitcoin in the last few months at every point of time than in the years preceding that, because it is a growing trend. As a result, a lot of people do not necessarily know the history or have an appreciation for its history. For example, this bill prohibiting it, banning it, criminalizing it, there are various interesting words used around it, has been around since early to mid 2019. And the fact that the government has not brought it to the table, despite having a fairly strong majority in pulling through things, either indicates lack of priority, that this is not very important to the government, or the fact that they are still thinking, because it's such a rapidly evolving framework. Like today's news was that Bank of Singapore made a statement that Bitcoin could replace gold as a reserve of wealth. So there is one segment of the audience which is really upset, unhappy, and actually has reached a state of paralysis. Why that section I'm highlighting first is because I happen to be in that segment also. I definitely want to take positions in this space, but I don't know whether as soon as I take a position, I'll be forced to liquidate. There is another segment who understands Bitcoin technologically very well, and they know that even if you were to close every single exchange or entity which allows swaps, there are today many protocols available, names like SushiSwap, 1inch, Uniswap, etc., where even in the absence of any organization, you can move from one cryptocurrency to another, right? So there are some people saying, yeah, sure, let them ban whoever they want to ban. I am not going to be banned. Not realizing that if this becomes a criminal act, then, you probably want to absolutely follow any instruction that the government gives. So it's a wide range of emotions. Like many other laws, several people also believe it doesn't apply to them.
But in that scenario, there are also crores of people who are interested but sort of not sure about how to perceive it. And one question that comes up is, are Bitcoins safe? In other words, what is the underlying asset which guarantees that my investment will stay safe if I have invested in it, or if I'm thinking of investing in it now? So how would you sort of answer that question?
There are three dimensions of safety. One would be regulatory, which we have just talked about. Second would be technological, which I think is very important. But you are referring to the third one, which is price safety, which relates to what is the underlying value, or will it just burst one day and become zero? And that category of question. So look at it this way: money or many assets which are not necessary for living. For example, food is an asset which is necessary for living. Land is an asset which is necessary to lead a life. So if we look at all other things, for example, there could be currency notes, coins, there could be gold, there could be other forms of monies that have existed in the past. Any value that they possess is not because of an underlying value. Money doesn't have underlying value. Money represents a trust in a certain system. So, for example, Reserve Bank of India, Government of India guarantees a 2000 rupee note, and it actually says, I promise to pay the bearer. So really, unlike, let us say, 1 kg of apples, which has a certain underlying value because I could eat them, money has a certain belief system, and that has always been the case and
Right.
cannot be any other way. So, as the number of people who are demonstrating belief in this goes up, your ultimate backing of cryptocurrency is in a very large number of people who believe in it. And by the way, if that sounds like, hey, where is the asset in that? Well, the dollar and rupee also is exactly the same.
I mean, since we have not had a chance to actually go through the draft of the bill that is being proposed, so we are sort of relying a lot on the 2019 version and what has developed since then. Uh, Earlier also it was said that the government may provide for a 60 to 90-day window to get rid of your cryptocurrency. Now several options have come forward where like self-custody wallets, where you have a hard wallet with the crypto keys, or you send it across to a friend or relative who lives abroad somewhere, or you sell and exit. How do you look at these options, and is there a particular way forward that you will recommend among these?
Of all aspects of the upcoming bill, some of which is unclear, some of which is unfortunate, I think that this one aspect is the most perplexing. Because very simply, let us say I have a certain amount of Bitcoin, and the government says that after a certain date, you can't have it. Right? Now, so first is I could sell it, but clearly I can't sell it in the Indian market because if I don't have it, another Indian has it who has the same deadline to exit.
Right.
So that does not seem like an option. And the only option that comes up is that I either sell it abroad, which raises issues of the Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA, or the government appoints some sort of a custodian and says, send all your cryptocurrency to this entity. They will sell it in the open markets and give you money. Right? In both cases, the sale has to be international, because if it were domestic, then, well, what do you have then the entire legislation is meaningless. If that happens, I think it is like, frankly, I think the current policy does not even allow for that, because you can't so freely move your digital assets across boundaries. Maybe they'll give a one-time exception, which will require yet another series of legislative action, or they could just say, you know what, we are confiscating your cryptocurrency. Now that is a confiscation of 10,000 crore rupees from 75 lakh people. So in light of that, I don't see the government doing that. And if the government says they want to do that, I don't see everybody complying with it. Then, oh, take away my money, I just give it to you. So I don't know how this can be done. And all the things that people are coming up with, if you look at the 2019 draft, clause 26A and B actually referred to this. And as you can remember, I remember the clause number because it's so crucial to us. It basically says that those who already possess cryptocurrency will be given a 3-month period. That one said 3 months. Today we are hearing 3 to 6 months to dispose of the cryptocurrency in the way recommended by the government. So even while they had a lot of prescriptions which were precise, on this end they remained vague and said, we will tell you what to do with it. And frankly, I even though I understand the technology, the human aspects and the market aspects of it, I don't know how this will be done. I don't know how this will be done.
Right. And you've also spoken rather passionately earlier in one of the interviews I was reading, you saying that cryptocurrency is one of the greatest wealth creation opportunities of our times. Now, the sense that we get is that the government seems unsure of this mode of wealth creation, by which I mean that there are certain apprehensions of the government, which says that it may undermine the Indian rupee. It is not a legitimate asset class in itself. It might be used to sort of trade in contraband or whatever. Now, you have and many others in the ecosystem have spoken for regulation. So, how do you see regulation addressing these concerns of the government?
I think that whatever are the concerns, you listed some, then capital flight could be another, lack of tax revenues could be another, etc. Whatever is this entire family of concern arises from the fact that this is not a government administered asset. Very simply, for example, if Bitcoin were issued by the government of India, it would be a completely different thing, right? So if it is not a government a controlled asset, what is the next best thing for the government? The next best thing is the government, despite not controlling it, knows absolutely everything that is happening here. How would that happen? That would happen if you bring all such transactions up into the light, such as you create entities, let's call them exchange, depositories, or what we call wallets, etc., intermediaries, and the government says that only these licensed entities or entities following such a procedure, only dealing with those is legal. If you do anything outside of that, it is illegal. This would be great, because then the government can deal or engage with those entities and get all the information they want. And the government also insists that transactions in cryptocurrency should begin from a bank account and end into a bank account, right? So I think that literally, in my opinion, takes care of all of the government's concerns, except that they would then have to enforce it. That means they would have to say that people don't go into the dark area of the blockchain, but they remain in the lit area of the blockchain. What is happening presently in the regulation is that they are saying prohibit and ban. What do you prohibit and ban? The lit area. The dark area anyway was dark. So currently we may have a dark area and we may have a lit area, as is the case with black money, white money, and those kind of things. But if you ban this, all you are left with is the bad, and this causes a self-fulfilling prophecy where all your concerns actually become true.
Right, right. And just before we go, like, any last words to people who are currently invested in cryptocurrency in this scenario of uncertainty?
Yeah, so three words. Number one is that a lot of people you are hearing from themselves don't know what they are talking about, primarily because this is not a logical discussion. This is a discussion on predicting what the government will do. So panic has never helped. I have in the past panicked very often, including recently, and I must say it's always a bad idea. That's number one. Number two is I do not know what sort of an adverse reaction or action the government may bring. I personally hope and believe that the government will see what is happening in the world and actually come up with enabling provision. Call me a diehard optimist. But even if I'm completely wrong and they come up with a harsh regulation, I am, despite that, convinced that based on earlier regulatory moves by our establishment, our bureaucracy, our government, soon they will relax it and we'll be back on track. I just hope that is soon enough, because sometimes India misses the bus. We definitely caught the bus for software services and created world giants in that, but we definitely also missed so many other aspects of things like e-commerce and other such things because the policies were not favorable. That is the second thing, that short-term pain, maybe long-term we are doing fine. And third and final thing is that whatever it is that we do, being citizens of India, we have to be law-abiding, right? So even if we sometimes disagree with the law, we should fight it, we should oppose it, we should make a noise, we should challenge it, we should educate people, etc. But ultimately, you have to follow the law of the land. Those would be my three words of advice.